All right, 8th graders, lesson 58, solving percent problems with equations here. You can remember a percent is basically of a whole is a part. So if I have a percent of the whole group, that will tell me what part I have. So if I have, per se, 50% of the playing cards, there's 52 cards in a deck, then I'm going to have 26 of them. So that's how we can correlate this problem down here with this part up here. Now we can remember a few things. Percent, I could convert it to a fraction or a decimal if I wanted, and I will do that from time to time depending on the type of problem that I'm using. The type of problem that you're using is going to dictate whether you want to use a fraction or whether you want to use a decimal. Now sometimes a lot of these problems, this is a nice simple problem, some of the percents that we're going to be working with, when you start getting some real odd percents, say a 68% or a 19%, it's going to dictate that you're going to want to use your calculator. So don't be afraid to do that. Otherwise, sometimes some of the work gets a little bit tedious. So we want to use a calculator to get an exact answer. All right, here in example 1, we have 32 ounces is 25% of a gallon. So if we go back and put that into our percent of a whole times a whole equals a part. All right, I know I've got 25%, so I can plug that in there. And I've got 32 ounces is 25% of a gallon. So it looks like the 32 ounces is only a part of the gallon, and since I have the part number, then I would want to put that over here, 32 ounces. So what I need to know is how many ounces are in a gallon. So that's going to be over there. So 25% of a gallon is 32 ounces. Now I can go ahead and try to solve this problem. I've got to change. I probably want to use, well, we can do it both ways here. This number needs to be changed into 0.25 times the G for gallon equals 32. We divide both sides by 0.25. You punch that into your calculator there, and you figure out in a gallon you have 128 ounces total. Another way of doing this is going to be instead using the 25% as 1/4 times a gallon equals 32. And in this case, I want to multiply by 4/1. So this will cancel out. That'll be over 1. And 32 times 4, G will equal 128. I don't like that 2 there. Erase that there and go back. 128 ounces. So either way, you get the same answer, 128 ounces, using decimal or using a fraction. Doesn't matter. All right, let's look at example 2. Mr. Velasquez bought a used car for $8,500. The sales tax rate was 7%. How much did Mr. Velasquez pay in tax? So here, looks like I have got the percent. So I'll put that up here because remember, percent times whole equals a part. And the 8,500, is that a part or is that the whole? I believe that's the whole here, because I want to know the part. I just want to know what part of 8,500 is my taxes that I'm going to have to pay, and I'm going to be paying 7%. So what part of this am I going to be getting? So this means I've got the whole. This, we go ahead and punch it into our calculators here, and let's see, we find that 8,500 times 0.07, 7% as a decimal, and that will equal $595. So that's going to be my percent tax. If I did want to use a fraction, I can do that. We'll do 8,500 over here times and 7 over 100. 7% is 7 over 100. Put that over 1. I can make that a 1 and make that an 85. Take out the 2 zeros from each of them. 85 times 7, that'll be 595. So again, our two answers are exactly the same. We've used a decimal or I've used a fraction. Alright, example 3 here says for the following percent problems, decide whether it is better to express the percent as a decimal or as a fraction. So for A here, a sales tax rate is 8.25%. What is the sales tax on a purchase of $18.97? So I'm going to be taking that $18.97 and I can multiply it 2 different ways. I can multiply it by a decimal, 0.825, or I could multiply it by 8 1/4, which I would have to do as 33 over 4. 8 times 4 is 32 plus 1 more. I think I would rather do this one over here. I could just rewrite my problem as 1897 times 0.825 and go ahead and solve that problem. Either way, on your calculator is going to be easier, but this is probably the more efficient way, pencil and paper. So for A, I'm going to choose decimal as my answer. All right, and now we go on to B here. Again, do I want to use a decimal or a fraction? Let's see. Shirts are on sale for 33 1/3% off, so a third off. How much is saved on a $24 shirt? So I can multiply that by 0.333, repeating there, or I could go by the fraction 1/3. So in this case, because this is probably not only going to be more accurate and easier, I'm going to go with 24 over 1 times 1 over 3, which will get me $8 off. So I am going to choose this time a fraction as my answer. That's going to be the easiest way to do B rather than a decimal number. All right, finally, example 4. Blanca correctly answered 23 of the 25 questions. What percent did she? All right, so I've got percent times the whole equals the part. And in this case, I have the whole, 25. I have the part, 23. I want to know what percentage that is. I'm going to have to divide this side over here by 25 so that it's eliminated. I also have to do the same over here. So percent will equal 23 divided by 25. Punch that into my calculator, and I get 0.92, which means it's 92% is my final answer. So when finding the percentages of something, divide the amount you have by the total amount. As you often see on your papers, that's how I'll write your score. If you got 10 out of 12, you could divide that, 10 divided by 12, to find out what percentage your grade was. That's it for today. You can get started on your practice set.